One tunnel, 2,500 years old, and it's still carrying waste out of Rome right now. Think about that for a second. Your phone is obsolete in 3 years. Your city's water pipes get replaced every 50, but the Cloaca Maxima, Rome's great sewer, has been running more or less unchanged since before Julius Caesar was born. No engineer today would sign off on that. No modern city would leave a 2,000-year-old drainage tunnel in charge of a metropolis, and yet Rome did. Rome trusted it completely, never rebuilt it, never truly reinvented it for 1,500 years. Here's the machine nobody built on purpose that kept 1 million people from drowning in their own filth. This isn't really a story about Rome. It's a story about drainage, the most boring word in engineering and one of the most dangerous problems a city can fail to solve. Every large civilization since has had to answer the same question. Where does the waste go? Most got it wrong. Rome got it right almost by accident and then never had to ask again. Let's go underground. The Cloaca Maxima started as an open ditch. Sometime around 600 BCE, the kings of early Rome needed to drain a swamp sitting right in the middle of their settlement, the low ground that would one day become the Roman Forum. You couldn't build a capital on a marsh, so workers dug a channel and gravity did the rest. Over the next few centuries, Romans did something almost nobody else in the ancient world did. They didn't tear it out and start over. They built on top of it. They arched it with stone. They extended it. They connected new neighborhoods into the same channel, the same slope, the same outlet into the Tiber River. By the time of Emperor Augustus, the historian Pliny the Elder was already writing about the tunnels beneath Rome, wide enough, he claimed, for a hay cart to pass through. Picture the engineering problem underneath that claim. A tunnel that size, running for miles under a hillside city, has to keep a downward slope the entire way. One wrong grade, one block stretch, and sewage backs up into the streets above. Rome didn't have laser levels. It didn't have hydraulic modeling. It had surveyors with sighting tools, and it had to get the math right the first time because there was no fixing a buried mistake without tearing up half the city. And here's the part that should unsettle you. This wasn't a single grand design. It grew, piece by piece, generation by generation, into something that somehow still worked as one system. That almost never happens by accident, almost. So who kept it working? Not emperors. Emperors got the statues. The actual system depended on the aediles, Roman magistrates whose job included inspecting the water supply and the drains. Marcus Agrippa, a name most people only associate with the Pantheon, personally financed and organized a massive cleanup and inspection of the Cloaca Maxima around 33 BCE. He reportedly sailed a boat through it himself to check the work. Not a metaphor. An actual boat underground, under the streets of Rome, because the man in charge needed to see the tunnel with his own eyes before he trusted it. Below Agrippa were the people history barely remembers, slaves and laborers assigned to sewer maintenance, clearing blockages, checking joints, hauling out debris in tunnels dark enough that a torch was the only light for miles. It was filthy work, low status work, but without it, the tunnel silts up in a decade. The empire's greatest city was, quite literally, held together by men whose names were never carved into anything. There's a Roman legal detail that tells you how seriously they took this. Roman law recognized the right to connect a private drain to the public sewer, and disputes over that right show up in the legal record, argued in courts, because access to the Cloaca Maxima was valuable enough to fight over. This wasn't an afterthought. It was infrastructure people depended on the way you depend on your own plumbing today, except 100 generations were relying on the same pipe. Now here's the turn. A system this old, this trusted, this deeply built into the bones of the city becomes something else too. A single point of failure. Every drain in Rome eventually fed into the same channel. Every neighborhood's waste depended on the same slope, the same outlet, the same stretch of ancient stone holding its shape underground. What happens when the empire that built it stops maintaining it? Because that's exactly what happened. As Roman administration weakened in late antiquity, the meticulous inspection regime that men like Agrippa had once enforced began to fade. Aqueducts got cut during sieges, populations collapsed, and a sewer system built for 1 million people found itself serving a city that, by the early medieval period, had shrunk to a fraction of that number, while the tunnel itself, unmaintained, kept aging in the dark. Here's the payoff. The Cloaca Maxima didn't fail because it was badly built. It nearly failed because the civilization around it lost the capacity to keep tending something invisible. The tunnel survived. Rome, for centuries, barely did. That's the trade every civilization makes with its underground systems. Build them well enough, and they'll outlast you. Neglect the people watching them, and it won't matter how well they were built. And this is bigger than one tunnel in Italy. Every city you've ever lived in has its own version of the Cloaca Maxima right now. A drainage system, a water main, a power grid, something ancient by infrastructure standards, running quietly under your feet that nobody in your household has ever had to think about until the day it stops. So the next time you flush a toilet without a second thought, remember, somewhere in Rome, water is still moving through a channel dug before there was a Roman Empire to protect it. It outlasted the kings who started it, the engineers who expanded it, and the empire that once inspected it by boat. What's the tunnel under your city that nobody's checked in a while?